We're ready to go with another Ballpark Digest live broadcaster chat. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts and with Ballpark Digest, with big thanks to Kevin Reichard. And I'll be joined by Mick Gillispie, the voice of the Tennessee Smokies, and, spring training-wise, the Chicago Cubs. And Mick is coming our way from Cactus League action. Mick is calling the game between the Cubs and the Oakland Athletics a little bit later on today, coming up at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's why we've started up this week, coming up at this time. We've started things 30 minutes earlier in the day. It's good to have you along with us. There's a fun development occurring, and I can credit Mick, I can credit Donnie Barnes with the A's, and there are other broadcasters too, with minor league broadcasters getting that opportunity to join the major league team. And for these games, for games in spring training, being able to join in and call these broadcasts, which is fun because they know the players. Let's get Mick in here. Let me ask him about this experience. I know that Tyler Murray is joining the Blue Jays broadcast a little bit later on today, alongside Mike Wilner. Kirsten Carlock has been part of Philadelphia Phillies broadcast and more. Mick, do you think that you were one of the very first minor league baseball broadcasters to join the major league broadcast in spring training?
I think Doug Greenwald's the guy you got to credit. He was doing them for the Giants long before me. That's how I got started. Doug asked me to come on. The Giants and the Cubs were playing, and then I thought, why not do the Cubs games? So and it's turned into like a pretty big deal. So I remember when it first started, people couldn't figure out how to get the games on. They were like, "What do you mean? Cubs.com," and the At Bat app came along, and then it just kind of metamorphosis into this thing that we have now where, most of the games are covered one way or the other.
Did you approach the Cubs yourself? Did you say, okay, Doug set the standard, let's go, let me drop a line and see what happens?
Yeah, I did. Excuse me. I did. I sent an email through someone I knew there, and then that got, forwarded to someone else, and I came out, I think the first year I did like 4 games. I just flew in for a couple of days, for a week maybe, and did 4 games. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And then the next year, it just turned into this. Len Casper jumped on board, and that made just a huge splash. And then, before that, the Cubs got behind it, and then everything kind of went from there. But it was like that first year, I couldn't even tell you when it was. It was a while ago. We just did 4 games, and really kind of a very primitive setup, I'll say. And I don't know even how many people listened to it. We didn't really publicize it too much. It was just kind of a test run to see if it was worth doing. But we knew that the Giants had done it for a while. And, and Duggar had done such a nice job with their games that it was just kind of something that we figured Cubs fans would like.
How's your cold? Are you feeling better this week?
Yeah, I feel a lot better. I'm actually at the stadium right now, so I'll give you a little look out there. So this is where I'm at right now. Can you see that?
See it beautifully. Look at that green grass.
Yeah, green grass, right? Yeah, I feel a lot better. Last week, it was that was a rough day or two there. But I flew in on Wednesday, and I was sick by Wednesday night. So by Thursday I woke up, and about the only thing productive I did Thursday was talk to you on here.
Let me tell you what I'm dealing with here in Lansing. Here we go. What do you think of that field right there?
Oh, nice. Little snow.
Just a little bit. We had the big flakes coming down this morning.
Did you?
I don't mind the big flakes.
What temperatures do you guys have?
17 degrees and feeling
wow.
fine.
Yeah, well, that's something. Yeah, I think it's going to be like 70, maybe 73 today or something. And when I got here, though, I'm trying. Yeah. When I got here, though, it was cold and rainy. So it's just kind of started to gradually heat up, and then ironically, as it's heated up, I've started to feel a lot better.
Well, it's good, really good. It seems to me that the Cactus League doesn't have the same amount of rainouts as the Grapefruit League.
No, no, and people have argued with me, which one's better. I've been to both places. I haven't worked games in Florida, but I've worked games here. Yesterday we played the Rangers in the West Valley, surprise, and it was like an hour drive. Like, and I had to go through Phoenix traffic, but nothing compared to what they deal with.
See if we can get Mick back. Or for a moment, I'm going to try to re-add him back in with that freeze. Let's see if we can get Mick unfrozen. Like playing a game of tag, right? Here's the connecting. And we'll see.
Somebody
There
called
you
me.
are.
What a rude person. I forgot to put the phone on Do Not Disturb. But anyway, yeah, so the travel here is a lot better, and it makes it just being able to come out here and get to all the stadiums, and they're all kind of in one big nucleus. Even the stadiums out on the West Coast, it's great here.
That's great. Let me ask you, we're going to talk about fastball as our baseball lingo today. We've got our call of the week being tongue cheek. And we also have, lastly, we're going to tell some umpiring anecdotes. But I was wondering, do you have any thoughts about the announcement that the Atlantic League is partnering up with Major League Baseball to do
I
experimental rule changes this summer?
Yeah, I talked about it yesterday on the Cubs broadcast. I personally think it's great. I've been an advocate of robot umpires for a long time. I've seen how an umpire can sometimes, I feel like, purposely, not a lot, but on occasion, sometimes they just aren't very good, ruin the game based off of their balls and strikes calls. And now that we have the technology, we talk about it on the radio. You can tell by the hitters' reactions. You can tell, from up here pretty good. But with technology, whether you watch it, the replay or the video guys, what they give you, it's it's not good. I mean, like, even if even if they get them right at 85%, there's still 15% that they're getting it wrong. I just feel like balls and strikes are something that should be right every time, and we can do it like that every time. I'm not saying they even take a job away from an umpire. I think you still need someone back there, but I would prefer to have consistent strikes. I mean, things that bother me are a veteran gets a call that a rookie doesn't get. I don't like that. If it's a strike, it's a strike. If it's a ball, it's a ball. Or this guy's been playing for a long time and his strike zone's different than this guy, that is in the middle of his career. Like, no, it's either a strike or it's not a strike. I think the umpires at the major league level have a lot of integrity, but I would prefer to have that, where it takes the human element out of the game. I feel like there's times where an umpire might be not happy with someone playing, and that changes their call of balls and strikes too. And I just, for me personally, I just would love it where their opinion of what someone is wearing or who they like and who they don't like has nothing to do with the game. So I love it. I love that they're probably going to test that. I don't know about moving the mound back. That was something else I read. That baseball wants to increase the pace of the game, so I think that's something that they'll probably look at. But I think it's a great idea. I think it is. It's a good partnership for both. The Atlantic League gets a lot of credibility. Who would we be talking about the Sugarland Skeeters and the South Maryland Blue Crabs today had it not been for this big announcement?
Except for signing Roger Clemens to pitch for them. That's it,
Yeah.
right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
former major leaguers. All right. I agree with you in terms of the robot umpires. I'm a little leery, as I think you are, about moving the mound back, especially because you and I see pitchers work on that last foot, that last couple of inches to home plate, getting that good late movement. So if you move the mound back, that's going to affect how a pitcher pitches.
Right.
But if a pitch hits the catcher's mitt in the same area Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the pitcher should get and the batter should get the same call. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, yeah. I hope they don't change the mound. 60 feet 6 inches, fine with me. I don't think that's a problem with the game. And I don't want them to mess up the stats either. Every time you tweak something like that, you're really, changing the formula that we've had over the years to figure out who the best at this game is. Would Cy Young be the best pitcher and have the most wins or whatever if the mound was back further? I don't know. Just leave the mound alone.
Cy had to deal with a lot of rule changes from his time. What a career he had in terms of it spanning different types of baseball generations. But to our baseball lingo today, speaking of Cy, whose nickname was Cyclone, his real first name was Denton, and he was called Cyclone because of the fastball he threw. Fastballs are baseball lingo today. Mick, do you have any favorite nicknames for fastballs that you like to use on the air?
I mean, Heater, the old number one. I don't know. You know what? I say fastball a lot too. How about you?
I love Heater. I love that he brings in the heat. Just that idea of the fire, a fireballer coming in from the bullpen. I like the idea of the fastball arriving with smoke tailing off of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a visual, and that's a term that was always around but has gotten popular again here lately. But yeah, I like that one. I mean, there's throughout the course of the season, you'll find different ways to say fastball. I usually say fastball and then describe the movement of the pitch. Two seam, four seam, cutter, stuff like that. And now sinkers, right?
Well, with pitchers now, it's the two seam that sinks or runs, but how many guys are just getting movements on the fastest pitch that they throw? Not
Right.
too many guys are settling for the straight four seamer anymore.
Yeah.
I love Chris Mason checking in with bring the cheddar.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Cheddar, the cheese, the
Cheese,
queso.
baby. Oh yeah.
Add some
So pull up your
mustard
book,
on
man. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Well, that's the fun of it is, and the reason that I started making those lists was just trying to go through those different ways, and then what could I try that really felt right? I love the Express. Remember Nolan Ryan was the
Yeah.
Ryan Express?
Yeah.
So I think as well, when you go down to the bullpen, watch a guy throw a side session. It's not just watching with your eyes. Have you ever heard a fastball arrive in at home plate?
No, I've been at the plate and heard one before. And some of them are really loud.
Well, that's where I love the term, and sometimes I'll use it too when a guy, yes, a sizzler, right? It sizzles into home plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what's weird is that there's different type of fastballs that are the same speed. Like some guys throw a fastball and it just looks like it kind of floats out there. I'm like Nolan Ryan's, like it's just flat. It's a little bit high, and it's hard to judge how fast it's coming in, and then all of a sudden it's by you, And then some guys throw them and it's like they dart, like they've got the movement on them, and they just look like they're not the same exact pitch, and then you go back and you're like, well, that was 96 too. Like Josh Heater, the Brewers, has a fastball to me it's just so elusive, and I wasn't surprised at all that he's become one of the great relievers in baseball right now. I noticed it when he was in the minor leagues, and it was that fastball that just caught my eye. Like how does this? How is it? Because it looks like it's a lot faster than it is because of all the movement and the fact that it darts.
Brings up one of my favorite terms too, is I love when I hear that a pitcher throws an invisible, that the batter just doesn't pick it up.
Yeah, we have one of those guys in camp with the Cubs, Dakota Meckes, and it's his extension. It's like he's a big guy, and then when he throws the ball, he's got this ability to kind of hide it to the last minute, and then the way that he like releases it, it's invisible, and guys swing through it a lot, and he's had so much success in the minor leagues. I don't know that he'll make the team out of camp, but he certainly could. And one of the reasons why is that it's just hard for guys to really see his pitch.
Well, if you go back in the day, now we can talk about the spin rate, especially with Rapsodo helping teams. But in reading about the old Joe Page of the 1940s, 50s Yankees, their fireman, it was always described his fastball had hop to it, or it had late life, or that jump at the last second. And that's
Yeah,
what it all is. It's that fastball, that late movement to it. Guys back in the day would call it a hop or a jump or a
yeah,
lively fastball.
yeah. Aroldis Chapman has the best late movement I've ever seen. So you see the pitch coming, and then I don't know, maybe like 10 feet before it gets to the batter, it has just like another gear. Michael Kopech of the White Sox, very similar. And these guys that throw 100 miles an hour. And I feel like it's the velocity that those pitches, and I don't know the science behind it. It's something I'm sure to do with spin, but it's like it gets to about 10 feet and it's just boom. It just keeps accelerating.
Vast guys. We had a Lugnuts team several years back had to play against Aroldis Chapman because Chapman was rehabbing for the Dayton Dragons. So he faced the 1, 2, 3 batters in the order. And afterwards, I was wondering, was it fearsome? Was it intimidating? Were you nervous up there? Anything like that? And the two things that I heard, first thing that I heard was, it wasn't fearsome. It was just like he was high-fiving me off the mound. Every time I felt that his left hand was closer than they remembered a pitcher's hand being before.
Yeah,
And the other thing that they said was the only thing about it was there sooner. That they had never experienced a fastball where the pitch was just there sooner than they were expecting. Like somebody arriving early to a party. The
yeah,
pitch was arriving early to the party.
yeah, yeah. I saw a couple games I broadcasted where he was clocked at like 106 early in his career. I don't know that how accurate that was, but I mean, we scored a run off of him, but I mean, it just looked different. I mean, these guys can hit fastballs, even if they're coming in at 106, but not consistently. The Cubs don't have a World Series without him, so that's a funny way of putting it, though. Like kind of like high fiving, like here it comes.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's special because of that. I mean, like, and at the end of the day, when you can throw the ball, I'd say in Double A, which is where I work, 96 or higher, you're going to get most of the hitters out, right? If you have any kind of like if you're able to elevate it a little bit or sink it some, and you can throw, just without just throwing it over the plate. I think at the major league level, I know that guys can hit anything, but I feel like once you get over 99, you start getting into 100. It's the same thing. If you can elevate it, if you can sink it a little bit, your chances go up as far as getting outs. I mean, you still have to have other pitches, but you can rely on that. I think like back, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you threw like 100, like you were somebody. The difference is now a lot of guys throw 100. So it's like as the pitchers are able to throw with more velocity, that level, goes from, 97, 98, 99. Like I'm a hard thrower. I throw 98. Well, go join the bullpen where everyone else does. It's like you kind of, you get it over 100 now and they can still hit it, but it's just more difficult in my mind.
I'd argue too that if a batter sees only one guy a season who throws 100, how in the world can he prepare for it? But if every single team that he faces has a guy who throws 99, 100, well, then the batter's getting some practice in, and then the pitcher has to make sure really he spots up that 100. He can't throw that 100 right in the hittable part of the zone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you still have to be able to pitch some. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's been guys that have thrown hard forever, but you have to have an idea. I personally look if it's me, if Mick's the pitching coach, I don't need the velocity as much as I want people to have movement and control. Have an idea what they're doing, but just a sure fastball. Just like, hey, all I got's a fastball. I think if you at this level, at the major league level, you got to be, 99, 100 or above to like really rely on it. And if you don't have a lot else going on, and they can still hit it, but I don't think that it's like everyone's going up there and taking their hacks. I think it's like, hey, look, if they can hit it, but it's still tough. It's a challenge.
You mentioned the elevated fastball. There are pitchers who pitch vertically, and then there are pitchers who pitch horizontally. You know those guys will start, they'll throw strike one, and then once they get ahead, they'll say, will you chase at the letters? Will you chase a little bit
Hmm.
above? And then there's the Tom Glavine who would hit right at the outside corner, and then he'd pitch an inch off the outside corner. And then he'd pitch 2 inches off the
Yeah.
outside corner. And so it'd work you laterally across the strike zone, and back inside to back you away, and then right back to the outside corner.
Yeah, yeah. Tom Glavine's a great example of being able to pitch. I mean, he didn't throw hard, but he had great accuracy. Kyle Hendricks does that for the Cubs. He's just able to hit his spots. And those guys, if they don't hit their spots, they give up runs. Like they look very mortal, but all of a sudden, it's like you said, when they establish themselves, and they're smart enough too, where they know the variances in umpires. Like, hey, this guy's going to give me this guy's going to give me that, which is going back to the robot umpires, which is why I want robot umpires. I want to know what the strike zone is. I don't want a different strike zone from the guy that's coaching. I mean, that's umpiring third today, and then he's going to wheel around, and eventually he's going to be at home plate, or the guy said, I want them all to be the same. But you're
Right?
right. I mean, like those guys are able to figure out like what that particular umpire strike zone is, and then just kind of fish off the corners and work up in the zone. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons this game's great is that you don't have to throw 100 to be a really good or great pitcher. And Glavine's, in his example, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
I bet you've heard this term before, right? Are you a pitcher or are you a thrower?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And I've seen a lot of like pitchers and throwers. Sometimes it's fun to see guys that develop into being a pitcher. And if your organization is developing talent, that's one of the things they're trying to teach these guys. We had a coach named Storm Davis who was on the '83
Yes.
Orioles. I thought he was a great coach, and he would tell me stories about Cal Ripken Sr., not Cal Ripken Jr., but Sr., sitting next to him on the charter flights, talking to him about just the game, just the mental aspects of the game, and him getting better at understanding like what he's doing in a certain situation. He had good stuff, but it's like you're learning that at the end of the day, if I've got 5 runs and you have 4 runs, I win the game. It's not always, well, I gave up 2 runs today. Well, if you gave up 2 runs, but you only scored one, you lost, right? So uh, the ability to understand the game and pitch to the game, I think is undervalued now because we look at so many of the things that go along with the game that are like the impressive stuff. Like, hey, I just threw one and this one went in at 100. And at the end of the day, you're just trying to get it out and have one more run than the other team.
Well, that was the story of, let's say, an Armando Benitez or other pitchers who would throw their fastball. Then they'd wheel around and say, "What'd that radar gun show me right there? What was I
Yeah.
throwing that one at?"
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, definitely.
But the idea of baseball and macro and micro. Macro is what's the final score. Micro is for this pitch, what is the batter looking for? So what do I want to give him? It's very similar to me in basketball. If I know that you, Mick, like to go right, I'm going to make sure you can't go right. If I know
Right.
this batter likes fastballs in, well, guess what? If you're getting a fastball in, it's going to be too far inside, and then I'm going to give you the pitch I want to get you out on.
Yeah. And I'd say, like I've noticed with players over the years that they don't, that especially with pitching anyway, it really surprises me how many guys don't watch the game. Like, and I'm sure with the video that's available now, you can't help but watch the game, because you're gonna, all you gotta do is go talk to the video coordinator, and he's going to have every pitch of, any game that's been played. But you'll see guys that will dominate at the minor league level with big problems. Maybe they can't hit a changeup, or maybe they, they'll swing at pitches in the dirt. Like if you get ahead of them, you can get them out every time. And guys don't attack them based on their weaknesses, and then you'll talk to them as, we'll do what we do, and you'll say, hey, I don't know, did you notice that the guy can't hit a changeup? Or, what do you think? And it's like some of the pitchers, the Kyle Hendricks are going, yeah, I see that too, and that's why he won a National League ERA crown. He doesn't let anything get by him. And then there's other guys that are like, I just, I go out there and I just try to throw the ball over the plate. Like, and for some guys, that's all that matters. Like, they don't really need to go and look at what the weakness is of the batter. They're trying to do what works for them. But I just think, like, when you get to the big leagues, no matter how talented you are, you got to know who you're up there facing. And with the technology, why not use it, right?
Here's a story from a hitter's perspective. Ask Bo Bichette, what does he want to know about each pitcher going into that start? Because there's all this analysis that's out there. There's all this data. And Bo said, I want to know what pitches does he like to use when there are runners on base. Mick, you all right? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm plugging in over here. Just keep going. I'm listening.
So Bo said percentages of pitches he likes to use when there's runners on. In other words, when the situation suddenly becomes dramatic and high stress, what does this pitcher trust? Because if there's nobody on base, everything is on the table. It's me versus him. He's going to do whatever it takes. And if he walks me, he walks me. But if there's guys on, that's when things really come down to it. And that's when he really wants to make pitches to get me out. That's when I need to know what he trusts.
Yeah. I used to watch when I played, I used to watch like certain pitchers, and I watched them all, but I try to pick up, like if I was leading off an inning, if a guy had a tendency to throw the same pitch to start off every inning. Some guys get into this, and I got a lot of hits off of that. Like it would be like I'd say fastball away. I'd say, okay, yeah, this guy's definitely going to throw. He's throwing a fastball away to every first batter. If I lead off, I'm going to jump on that. And sometimes I would keep that to myself, and then sometimes I would would get in a spot and I'd tell my teammate, hey, look, it's going to be a fastball up. The guy's done it, the last 4 innings, and you go up there and then whack it someplace, so. That doesn't always work that way, but you can, if you pay attention, people, they're human, like they have like routines, and so you can find out stuff about people just by paying attention to, to what they're doing. I've never been, I wasn't, when I played, not that I played at the major leagues or anything, but I didn't like knowing what, like reading signs, like it didn't help me a lot. Like I could decode them, but I just, it's like, hey, look, here comes a curveball. This is the next one's going to be a curveball. Like, I don't know. Like, we would have this thing, like the guy on base at second would kind of like, yell your first name if it was going to be one pitch or your last name. And the funny part about it is that I've caught teams doing it at Double-A. Like we still do the same thing. Or like, you'll see the guy lead and he touches his head or he touches his hip, So, and at this level, these guys know what's coming, and you'll see like 18 straight doubles, and you're like, what is going on here? And like, pay attention to the guy at second,
Yeah. Or to the catcher, switch up your signs. Just switch up the signs. Second sign indicator, third sign indicator, figure it out.
Hey, one thing I loved about Javi Baez, DJ LeMahieu, same way, is that these guys, as middle infielders, would pick up on that. And then there was a game where we almost had a brawl in the game, and it was DJ LeMahieu was playing shortstop, and the the catcher, I want to say it was Wellington Castillo, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, LeMahieu was at second base, and then they all of a sudden the pitcher thinks that they're stealing signs, and he's yelling at the batter, and then here comes LeMahieu out, and I'm like, this guy's not going to take any stuff. Like this guy looks like Opie Taylor, but he's a pretty tough dude. And then Javi Baez, I can remember a game where he stood in front of the runner so that the guy couldn't see home plate to keep him from stealing a sign.
Remember that.
So yeah, like that's such that's masterful gamesmanship right there. And to kind of figure it out, and then hey, look, I'm just going to go stand in front of that guy and keep him from being able to do that. I love the Javi Baez from the first game I ever saw him, and it was stuff like that. I love that, and I just having seen so many games, like that's just next level, man. When you get guys on your team that are able to do those kind of things, little things like that, it makes a difference.
Our call of the week was partially inspired by listening to you and Len Casper on the call not too long ago, because you brought up the nickname Wild Thing, which
Oh
led
yeah,
Len to Mitch Williams, which led me to one of the all-time great baseball calls, I would say, 1993 World Series, Game 6, Joe Carter batting for the Blue Jays.
Joe has had his moments. 2 balls and 2 strikes on it. Here's a pitch on the way. A swing and a foul. Off field. Way back. Blue Jays win. The Blue Jays are World Series champions. As Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch a ball, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
And then Joe in everybody's arms as they carry him away.
yeah. I hated those Blue Jays teams. I grew up in Baltimore in 1988. The Orioles went 0-21 to start the season. Well, then '89 was the Why Not Orioles. Do you remember those, or is that before your time?
I not only remember them,
Okay.
I had my VHS of Why Not, and we would
Yeah.
watch it all the time at
Yeah.
home.
So you know what I'm
Love
talking
that
about.
VHS.
So my best friend had tickets for the playoffs that the Orioles kind of had slip away from him right at the end of the season, and to Toronto. You remember that series? And that was
The
kind of
Trey
like,
Olson wild pitch.
yeah. And I want to say it was Olson, and then there was a reliever, Williamson. Do you remember him?
Mark Williamson.
Yeah, Mark Williamson. He had a palm ball, and it, but anyway, it was like 3 really tough games that the Orioles had maybe like a half a game lead or something, and they ended up losing right at the end of the season. And we had tickets, and then I just after that I was like, God, I hate these Blue Jays, But it was because they were good, the Mookie Wilsons and all those guys. But Joe Carter, hard to believe he was like a Cub at one point, like
Right.
very early on in his career. Great guy though, right? And I can still see that home run down the line, barely going over the wall. Who was that on the call?
Tom Cheek, the late Tom Cheek.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a good call, I mean, and what do you do in that moment, right? You
Well,
have
the whole touch 'em all is because Carter missed first base and they had to go back and touch it again. And
yeah,
so
I
there's
remember
Tom
that.
from the broadcast booth saying, "Touch 'em all, Joe."
Yeah. I can still picture that. Yeah. It was good. Good call. Not the best I've ever heard, but in that spot, it's I'm sure Blue Jays fans love it.
The home run that I think of too, when it comes to line drives down the line that you don't think are going to be home runs until they leave. Remember Mark McGwire's record-breaking home run to
Yeah,
bust Roger Maris's record? It was
very
just a
similar.
low line drive.
Yeah. Well, those big, strong guys too. Like it's like he didn't even hit it hard. I mean, he didn't really square it up. We'll say, but he was able to just sneak that thing over the wall somehow. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Tom Cheek too much. Like I don't remember him. I didn't really listen to him too. Like a lot of these guys, I spent a lot of, I would listen to them if I could catch them on the radio. Some of those guys would do national games. Tell us more about Tom Cheek.
Well, I think just starting off with this is about the idea of the local broadcaster. The broadcaster for that team and only that team. Why would anyone else know about them, right? Why would anyone
Yeah.
who is not a Seattle Mariners fan understand what Dave Niehaus meant to the Seattle Mariners
Yeah.
fan base?
Right. Yeah.
And yet, for the Mariners fan base, Niehaus, for the Blue Jays fan base, it was the Tom and Jerry show. It was Tom Cheek and at his side, Jerry Howarth for decades.
Really. Hmm. Yeah. Being from, like Toronto too, like, it's for us in the States, like kind of an afterthought. What do you think about Montreal getting an expansion team? I mean, I know I'm going off kind of the beaten path here, but
They have a good stadium, right? If they have a good stadium and good ownership, so the people at the top put them in the right spot. I think the city and the area is absolutely ready to take care of them and care about them. And because Canada is a relatively big place, right? Canada,
mhm.
I think, should have more than one team. I would love for Montreal to get a team again, but it begins with the ballpark and the ownership.
Yeah. Now, see, I think there's places in the United States that would support a team better than Montreal. Although I got to admit, Jeff Facero and Delino DeShields, those guys that played there in Montreal, they'll tell you that they wish there was still a team there. Like that was the only reason that they don't have a team was the strike and the stadium. But I think Nashville would be a great spot for a team. I think there's some places in the Midwest, like Oklahoma City, that could support Major League Baseball. I feel like baseball's, they're too slow in taking advantage of markets that would really fit and, um, you know, have a huge impact on the game, like a Nashville. Like you look at the NFL and then they've got teams in some cities that aren't huge, like Jacksonville, Nashville, and places like that, and those teams are supported. So it would be great to see baseball, and I know there's a lot more to it, but they need two teams anyway. I don't know. I mean, I remember Joey Votto's dad, Big Joe, the late Big Joe. He was great, great guy. Joey was on the lookouts, and his dad would email us and in the booth, and then he came and hung out with us. We invited him up. I still can see him. Big Joe wasn't really that big. He was just kind of a thin guy, and
Mhm.
he sat behind me on a folding chair and watched the game. Joey was leading the league in batting average and all this stuff. And, Big Joe was like, he can still do better, and they're from Toronto. And I'm like, do people up there realize like how good Joey is? Because I'm at the point where I'm like, look, the guy's great. I understand he's got, some other things that he could be doing maybe to improve his game, but I thought he was great. I told his dad that. And his dad's like, yeah, no, people really don't have a clue. He said, in Toronto, they care about hockey. He said, even if you're at the baseball game, they'll just start cheering for hockey, like if they got it on their ear. And so I just think of that, like this, Montreal, like hockey, is it a hockey place? Like this is, I'd love to see baseball in Nashville and Charlotte and maybe some other places, not Portland, but maybe out in in the Midwest somewhere else, like Oklahoma City, before they go back to Montreal.
If you remember Jose Bautista's home run against the Rangers, and you remember what Rogers Center was like, Toronto, that fan base, when things are going well, they are loud and into it.
Yeah,
Quick note for you about
that's
Tom
your
Cheek.
organization too. You better take up for him, right?
Those are my guys.
That's your
Exactly.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah. In Vancouver, short season A Northwest League, they sell out every single game. Every single game sold out at the Nat.
Why did baseball leave there? Like why did like AAA baseball leave there?
That's a good question. It might be because of the stadium, because it's a smaller stadium than
Is
AAA
it?
might have wanted. But I don't know the whole story. But it's smaller than your run of the mill or right now, really outstanding Pacific Coast League facility. The Nat
Right.
is great, just smaller capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cheek, from 1977 until 2004, 27 years, broadcasted 4,306 consecutive games, plus
Wow.
41 postseason games.
Didn't take a day off, did he?
Did not take a single day off.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I can get tickets to the Rolling Stones in Jacksonville, I'm taking a day off. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
That's anytime I hear consecutive game streaks from broadcasters, I'm going, you didn't get sick once?
No, you
Didn't
didn't have one
anything
barbecue?
happen once?
You're telling me there was not one time where you had something else that you could miss.
It's
I
the
mean, look, it's a great
Pelican Junior
job, though.
streak. How
Yeah, I
does
know.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured you'd get either get sick or something at some point.
For me, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the big Jewish holidays at the end of the year, I turn to my number two and I say, you got these games.
Yeah, right. Religious reasons too.
I was in Montgomery. The Biscuits were in the playoffs. It's Rosh Hashanah, so I'm in synagogue, and a guy walks past me down the aisle, whispers in my ear, "We're winning 6-1."
Hey, there you go. Did you guys win the championship?
We sure did. We won
I
the
know.
championship
Trust
both
me.
years that I was in the league. Kiss the
I
ring.
remember. Yeah.
About Joey Votto, because same time. What I remember about Joey the most was he hit the most vicious line drives that were right at the pitcher's head. He barreled up and smoked it through the pitcher's box more than any other batter I can remember.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a hard worker too, coming up. Really humble guy and treated people like no matter who you were with a lot of respect. And I like that about him. He never took himself too seriously, but one time he got the clubby to throw in batting practice like at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and that didn't go over too well with the Reds. See, I'm at work early because we had to pull a tarp, and then all of a sudden here's your star prospect with the clubhouse guy throwing out of a cart full of baseballs, and Vado's just sending them all zipping out of the stadium. He'd been struggling a little bit. I can remember them telling Joey that, yeah, we have people that are paid to throw those balls to you. That guy's paid to wash your uniform. But it was, it's typical Joey. He wanted to kind of do it on his own.
He's one of the closest things we have nowadays to Ted Williams. He's Ted Williams reincarnated.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Batting eye, left-handed batter, power, right?
Hmm.
Student of hitting, student of offense. That was Ted Williams. Left-handed
Yeah.
batter, crushed it, would not chase outside the zone.
No, and Joey's discipline, sometimes he's criticized because, people say, well, you're paid to go and drive runs in and you need to be more aggressive. See, I disagree with that. I think if it's not a strike, you get on base. There's 8 guys other than you in the lineup, and every situation's different, but I don't think swinging at bad pitches that you're not comfortable with is a good idea.
He knows his lane. He stays in his lane.
That's right, and I like that about him. Maybe he is suited better to be the second batter in the lineup compared to maybe third or fourth. But I've always appreciated his batting eye.
I think in Canada now, because you asked, did they appreciate him back then? It's Larry Walker and Joey Votto in terms of the greatest Canadian ball players ever.
Good, yeah, that's really good.
With story time this week, let's talk umpires. Talking about folks who don't take themselves seriously. Umpires generally do take themselves seriously, although every now and then you can find an umpire with a good sense of humor. Let's talk about experiences with the umpires through the years. I'll start off with a quick umpiring story and see what this triggers with you. I love talking with the guys who come through the Midwest League. Now, I shouldn't just say guys, now people, because now there are women who are umpiring in the minors too, and we had one in the Midwest League last year. But there was a man who was umpiring in the Midwest League years ago when I was young in the league, and I sat downstairs and I asked him what he was working on, just to see. Pitchers say they're working on this pitch, or hitters say I'm working on doing this. And this umpire was forthright, and he said, I'm trying to find the right place where I can stand and see this angle at third. And in April, he said, I cannot find the angle. And I saw him 2 months later, and he said, I've got it. I found where I need to stand. And the entire season, he was working on simply hustling to his placement. So he knew the right place where he had to be to make the right call.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday, the Cubs played the Rangers, and Jordan Baker was one of the umpires. I remember Jordan in the Southern League. I bet you were in the league when he was there. I mean, it would have been back
Yeah.
then when the Biscuits were back-to-back champions that you just reminded us of. What I liked about Jordan is, like he was able to diffuse a situation. Say an umpire or a player was upset or a manager was upset, without like taking it personally. Like it didn't turn into a situation where he was upset at someone else for something that they said. He didn't have rabbit ears. He was kind of a really nice guy, and I think that's one of the reasons why his demeanor. I think that's how he got to the big leagues. I think people were like, hey, this guy's easygoing, and we feel comfortable with the job that he does behind the plate and out on the bases. But at the same time, he's not getting riled up by some of the stuff that's said. I saw a video. And I could not tell you who the umpire was, but it was, I want to say Noah Syndergaard had thrown at someone, and then, the Mets manager, Terry Collins, comes out, and, Syndergaard's thrown out of the game, and then Collins is going crazy, and the umpire's like, kind of like just trying to calm him down, and get him off the field, and it was great. I thought, this umpire just did a really amazing job, like in a tough spot, because he didn't lose his cool.
Sometimes you just need to let a guy vent. Right? The whole head umpire calls the guy out on strikes. The guy barks. The umpire goes, all right, and now proceed. And then the guy heads back to the dugout. As long as there's no escalation, guys are such fiercely competing out there, and you don't want to get out, or whatever it is, you don't want to give in. As long as the umpire just gives you that room. It's when the umpire doesn't give you the room, that's when the troubles start.
Yeah.
We had a peculiar situation with umpires in Dayton, Ohio, where the ground rules were called in question. There was a ground ball hit to short. Shortstop's throw got away, bounded past the first baseman, hit off the net beyond the dugout, bounded right back into play. The umpires were trying to figure out where to put the batter, at first base or second base. Is the net in play or out of play?
Right.
And they conferred. They broke up. They made their decision. Manager came out, argued it. The umpires conferred for a second time, made their decision. Manager came back out. Third conference, after the third conference, and the manager sprinted back into the clubhouse, grabbed the ground rules, presented them to the umpires. The umpires read the ground rules, and then one umpire left the field, went back into the umpires' clubhouse, brought his own ground rules out there, read them, fourth conference, and then they changed where they placed the runner. It was a great 8-minute 4-umpire conference decision in order to figure out what in the world are the rules in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, it reminds me of your old stadium in Montgomery, Riverwalk Stadium. The top of the left field wall has this graded. They fixed it, by the way, but for years it was just like it looked like a bike rack. It was like on top of a 14-foot concrete wall. It was like another 3 feet of this bike rack stuff. And I just thought it would be about impossible to hit a baseball through there. And if the Biscuits hit one, it never went through there. But if the Smokies hit one, it always went through there, right? But then you would go back and watch the video, and you'd realize the ball does not go through the grates. They just pretend like it goes through the grates. So what would happen is the ball goes over the grates, bounces off the concrete. You know this because you know I'm right. Bounce off the wrought iron fence and back on the field, and it happens that fast, and then they play it, and then your guys hit a home run, and instead it's a double, right? So I would start to warn our managers before a series. Hey, look, this is a trick that they do here. The umpires, if they don't get out and run into that grass in left field, they're not going to be able to tell. And I don't know that they could tell with the naked eye anyway. I remember Brandon Geyer, who's with the Indians, I believe. He was actually got traded to the Rays, but he was with the Cubs at the time. He hit one that was, it was like probably 18 feet over the grades. And it hit and bounced back in, and they played like it was a live ball. And the umpires tried to say that it went through the grades because the outfielders were so good at faking it, and I mean, immediately they would point to the grading. So then now they've actually put like this stuff in front of it so that it can't go through there. You know that if it ends up on that concourse, it's a home run. But do you remember that?
Let me blow your mind, because I not only remember that well, but Lansing, Michigan, same ownership as Montgomery back in the day, same sort of structure with the
No,
grates out above the outfield wall.
really.
Here's CSI Lansing. We're taking on the Great Lakes Loons. A loon hits it. Umpires say it went through, places the runner at second base. The Loons broadcaster did not believe this was possible. Grabs the video, looks at the video. Video sure makes it look like the ball went right through the grates. He goes out there the next day with the baseball and tries it. And he comes back to me and goes, doggone it, I fit that ball so cleanly through the grates. That's exactly what happened. So in Lansing, I guess the grates were a little bit wider than in Montgomery.
Yeah. But I mean, like to have that ball like go through the, it would have to
One
be
in a million.
it would have to be a perfect shot. I mean, because just the way that the angle is, and I mean, I'm sure it could happen. I'm just saying that it rarely happens, except when we played there, it was happening 3 times a series, And it was before you had like the video like it is now. I think the reason why they changed it is because of the video. You can go back and easily watch it now. Before you had the Brandon Geyer home run I was telling you about, that is in the Southern League record books as a double. It was a guy that was filming one of the local Montgomery TV guys. Just happened to be filming, and
WSFA.
Yeah. The guy came in, and he's like, "Hey, that's a home run there." And I'm like, "I know, I was saying that." So I got the proof. Take it down and show our manager. They're not happy about it.
We're in Kane County, and you remember different stadiums throughout the years that have been poorly lit. This is still a problem throughout various leagues in the country. And the ball gets up into that darkness, the gloaming. And it does the old one-hop deal, warning track bounces over the wall, should be an automatic double. But if the umpire didn't see the bounce, so we had a one-hop home run in Kane County.
Yeah, I've seen that happen when I was in Salem. Same exact thing. And it was like a 20-foot wall, plywood wall, and somehow the guy missed that the ball hit the warning track. And it was a home run, and it was like a game. I think it might have been a game-winning home run, and But that's all those things that you learn when you're coming up through the minor leagues. Even the umpires, kind of how to get out there and see it. The good ones will figure it out, and the guys that aren't will do something else.
In the Midwest League, we've got a 2-person umpiring crew, which has caused some difficulties because every now and then you'll get an umpire who's not quick on the pivot. And so let's say there's a runner at first base. There's a runner at first, ground ball hit, and the bases umpire, whose job it is to watch that play at second base, the bases umpire puts one knee down and turns fully to watch the play. And the infielder decides to throw to first.
Yeah.
And it happens behind the bases umpire's back. And the home plate umpire, who knows what the home plate umpire is looking at? And everyone in the entire stadium realizes, although this was the most routine play in the world, neither umpire saw it.
Yeah. Hey, I saw a video, and it wasn't, I don't think it was like a high school game, but it was a 2-umpire crew. And there was a certain play where they knew where the umpires were, and they knew that the umpire could not watch the batter runner, the guy, touch third base. And so they would cut third base. And they did it enough where it was just something they did, right? I mean, and what could you do? I mean, if you don't have a person that's standing, I mean, they really would just cut right across and go. And I'm thinking a 2-man crew, those guys have so many other responsibilities. Whose job is it to look at third base on something? If you got 3 guys running.
There's a classic anecdote from 19th century baseball about a legendary umpire. Because in 19th century baseball, there was one umpire. and the umpire turned around. Here's the runner crossing, and the umpire calls him out. And the runner blows his top, and the manager blows his top, and they go, "What is this about?" And the umpire looks at all of them and says, "You got here too fast."
Yeah, right. Did he cut third?
Cut third. That
Yeah.
was the way back then.
Yeah,
They would do
yeah.
all sorts of different underhanded things. If you could get it behind the umpire's
Yeah.
back, you would try to make it happen.
Yeah, well, with video now, I mean, like it's only going to work so long because somebody's going to have it. But yeah, crazy. I mean, just to think that like there was, like you're sitting around watching film and you're like, hey guys, look, get everybody together. Like, if this scenario happens, I just want you to cut right across and just, skip the bag. Southern League, we have 3 umpires. The game I'll call today, Cubs and A's, they'll have 4. And I don't know if you realize this, but in spring training, the umpires rotate. So so that's something when you go out and broadcast your Blue Jays games, notice that the umpires, I think the home plate umpires, he'll stay at home, but the rest of the guys will rotate bases throughout the game.
I don't mind a good rotation just to keep everybody fresh on how everything goes. But man, being a home plate umpire, knowing balls and strikes, that's a skill that as long as it's not the robots, as long as it's a human being, well, you got to stay fresh with it. You'll see guys just get frozen on a good curveball, or they'll be at the right spot, or they'll suddenly fall into a mid-game slump, whatever it is. And umpires told me some days he doesn't see it well the same way a batter doesn't see the pitch well.
Right. I mean, I feel like we were talking about Dakota Meckes. There was a couple pitches yesterday where I thought that he might have fooled the umpire. Just the way that he has the extension we talked about, and his the way that his ball is kind of elusive. Where you look at it and you go, you know what? He might have just fooled the umpire. It's a good pitch.
Yeah, have you ever seen the umpire flinch?
Yeah.
Ready to pull the trigger, and just can't pull the trigger.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would be the tough part. That always sends the manager out too, of the other team. Whoever didn't get the call they want.
And yet, it's a job that I would never want to do. Umpire and official scorer are 2 positions that the group that they take from everybody.
I know.
Nobody is going to give them an easy day. And if they have a good, uneventful day, they consider it a blessing.
Yeah, I feel like I could official score. I'm confident I could do that with anyone. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of it comes down to this. I mean, I might think that that's a play you should make, or I might think that that's a routine. That's not a routine play. It's a little more, difficult to make. I just feel like with official scoring, it's have a game plan. This is what I think. I'm going to, give the benefit of the doubt to this, whether it be the pitcher or the hitter or whatever, and stick to it. And I think over the course of time that it'll all even itself out.
I'll tell you one quick final umpiring story as we're reaching the end of this week. And you've got a baseball game to call in the Cactus League.
Yeah.
There was a manager in the Midwest League who liked to do whatever he could do to find the little in advantage. So perhaps he wouldn't have his runners cut third base, but he'd do everything coming close to that.
Right.
And what he would do is, as a base coach, you are mandated that you have to wear helmets now. You can't wear baseball caps. He would go out there, and every now and then he would wear a baseball cap and no helmet. And then when an umpire made a bad call, he'd say, "You missed it, and I know you missed it because you missed me not wearing a helmet this inning."
Yeah. I wonder if that works.
I mean, he wasn't a favorite of the umpires, but he got his point across. He basically said, stay alert, get your head up.
Yeah, or get fined. I'm sure he probably got fined for that.
He was an interesting fellow. Mick, that does it for this week, talking about baseball in the Ballpark Digest broadcaster chat. Have a really good call today and say hi to Donnie Barnes from me.
I will. Yeah. Is Donnie here today? Do you know?
I think, right, he should be calling the game for the A's. That's who you got today.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I like Donnie. Yeah, I'll say hi if he's here. I know the A's are doing a lot a lot of games on radio this year. So even the spring training games. So, I'm looking forward to it. A's are a fun team, and if anyone out there wants to watch, Cubs.com, MLB Advanced Media app. Join Len and I. We'll try to make you laugh today and have fun as we figure out who's going to make this 26-man roster for opening day. It's been fun, Jesse.
Let Len know, too, that you're working with a guy who works in Mount Pleasant and broadcasts for Central Michigan University. I know
I
that's his
will.
hometown.
I know. Well, I said, is it anything like Mount Pilot? But I wasn't sure if anyone even knew what I was talking about anymore. Did you know what I was talking about?
No, Mount Pilot?
Mount Pilot, yeah. That's where Andy Griffith and Barney and those guys used to go all the time.
Oh, man.
It's a big city near Mayberry.
That's brilliant. Not pleasant. No mountain, but it's pleasant.
Yeah. All right. Good talking, buddy. See you next week.
Mick, take care. This is the Ballpark Digest live broadcaster chat. Big thanks to Kevin Reichard. That does it. And we'll check in with you next week from Calls of the Week, Baseball Lingo, and onward. You can follow us at Broadcaster Mick for Mick Gillispie, at J Goldstrassler for me, and go to Ballpark Digest.